Oh, Andrea Tessman.
Yes, Kirk Butler.
I have a question for you. On August 24th, 1974, do you remember what you were doing?
Oh, probably floating around somewhere in space as a soul without a body, yes.
Wow, how very Scientologist of you.
Well, yeah, I'm running out of ways to say I wasn't born yet.
Well, it was a clever one. I, however, was. It would have been a day before me turning 2. Apparently, my first words were bad baby, so that sort of sums it all up. But,
makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. If you went to the movie theaters, you were probably watching Burt Reynolds again in The Longest Yard. Richard Nixon just resigned from the presidency, effective 16 days before. Roe versus Wade was 1 year old, and that kind of ties into something that we might have heard on the radio if you were so inclined to turn on that dial. Paul Anka, Canada's own, went number 1 for the 4th time in his life, and the first time in 14 years, with You're Having My Baby. I know this was my choice. I don't know why I picked it, but I did.
I don't either, but I think it's an interesting choice.
Yes. You know,
I gotta say, I didn't know a whole lot about Paul Anka, except I knew he wrote My Way, and I didn't realize how prolific of a writer he was for other people. I knew he was Canadian. He was an old school Vegas style stoner, and so I learned a lot about him. The song itself is, although it was as you said, his first hit in 14 years. It's a pretty terrible song.
It's horrible.
I really don't know how the fuck it got to number 1.
And I guess that's what we have to try to analyze. I don't know either.
It's been touted as one of the worst songs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the lyrics are cheesy. The melody is catchy. I suppose that makes a difference. But it is the worst. It's swooning, sentimental, but also awkward and cringy.
Yeah, and you mentioned how it's on a lot of worst lists. I actually wrote about this before, and I think I brought this up on the show that about 7 years ago, one of the first things uploaded on the site. This one all written by me. Most of the shit on the site's written by me, not all of it. Was the top 100 worst songs in pop culture. I ranked this number 10, and I mentioned I got to redo it to add some other stuff that is some other crap that's been put out this last 7 years. I'm going to repeat a line I wrote, and I think I mentioned to you. I write so much, and I'm usually half in the bag when I'm writing. I'm completely sober right now, by the way. Now, I don't remember almost anything I wrote, so this is almost brand new to me. The last line I wrote was, "Thankfully, Anka didn't sing about the next time he slipped one past the goalie and he found his songwriting inspiration elsewhere in the future."
Oh, dear.
Yeah, but Anka, I forgot just what an absolute legend this guy was. And there's a lot of people who think like yourself who wasn't even aware, in the late 50s. I came to knowing that a lot later in my life, I think mostly because of my dad. He had his top number 1 hits were all in the late 50s. Lonely Boy, Diana, and what was the other one? Put Your Head on My Shoulders was number 2, so that one's a pretty iconic song from the late 50s, early 60s. Mm-hmm. What was that other number 1 song? Dun, 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 dun. Well, maybe it was only the 2. Oh, this was his 3rd number 1 song, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I guess I always think Put Your Head on My Shoulders, the one I know mostly from him. only went number 2. Like that's a failure. But the one interesting thing, when you're a late 50s teen idol, and that's what he was, Paul Anka he wasn't tall, dark, and handsome, but he was short, dark, and handsome. And there was a lot of girls, teen girls, who just gushed over him, but he wasn't so much manufactured. He wrote all his shit.
Oh, yeah. And he wrote a lot of other people's shit, too.
Mm-hmm. So he was doing this, like Diana, he wrote at age 16 about, I think he said it was about his babysitter.
His younger sibling's babysitter.
It was younger sibling's babysitter, okay. That would have been better if it was about his babysitter.
I would hope he wouldn't need a babysitter at 16.
Well, we're Canadians. We're raised differently. Maybe? Maybe. So this guy was massively successful. One of the most... I wouldn't put him in the Elvis category, but I think from the late 50s era of rock and pop, top 25?
Yeah.
Or if not close to. I mean, like, massively successful. Didn't achieve his success in Canada first. Did it all in the U.S. Pretty much self-made. One of the things I learned, too, just everything he did in the 60s as his career, I don't want to say winding down, because that's not really fair. He was producing and creating music all throughout the 60s, with varying degrees of success. I didn't know about that he wrote, or he helped compose, along with Johnny Carson, the Tonight Show theme.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't know that until I started looking into this either. That's
incredible. So he would have done that at 21 or 22. So, like,
I mean...
Go ahead.
Well, he wrote Diana, which is like his most... Well, you said at 16, and that's like one of his most successful pieces of music. Like, as a teenager, that's incredible.
Yeah, and and also, too, I didn't even realize this until recently, Buddy Holly's posthumous hit, It Doesn't Matter Anymore. That's his.
Yeah, and he actually donated all of the royalties of that to Buddy Holly's family.
So before we sort of get into the early 70s, you're a female, right?
I am.
All right. I don't know why I sort of worded it that way, but...
You never know. I might have changed my mind about that in the 4 years since I've seen you last.
Well, that could be. I mean, people have certain different interpretations of what they are. But does Paul Anka have a certain sexiness when you were looking back at old videos of him?
He's an attractive man.
Okay.
There's nothing about the 1970s style that's attractive.
Yeah, but that's everybody. Yeah, exactly.
But he's got handsome features.
See, because I look at him, and like when I look at him as a teen, I mean, I can see why girls would gush over him. When I looked at him, in the 70s, and in even later interviews, I remember seeing an interview with him on, I think it was Howard Stern, like 2009, when he was just talking about how, and as you mentioned, he wrote My Way for Sinatra. And he's got a certain presence to him. And sometimes I think presence makes up for looks, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it absolutely does. Attitude, presence. There's a je ne sais quoi about people that aren't necessarily traditionally handsome, but are still very attractive.
So he's got that it factor. So I think in the early 70s, because as we mentioned, he still put out, he still had songs that charted, but nothing big. And then all of a sudden, so you got to figure, he probably wrote hundreds of songs. What's the word I'm looking for? Composed hundreds of songs and just put out hundreds of songs. And now here we have a song about impregnation that somehow goes to the top of the charts in 1974. He hadn't had anything remotely successful like this in over 10 years. So how?
So he changed record labels, and this was one of the first things he put out with his new record label. I have a feeling that he kind of wrote it, like, while I really feel that the song is super cringy, I think he really did mean it as a love song to his pregnant wife.
Sure.
Like, he probably just wrote it as something he was singing to her, like, whenever. It's not, I don't know that he even intended to release it. And it could be something that the new record label decided, hey, let's try this. We're trying to rebrand you a little bit because you haven't had any success in 15 years, 14 years, whatever. So my thought really is that it really was meant to just be sort of a sweet tribute to his pregnant wife. By the time they released it, they had 4 daughters, so he could have written it at any time. I don't know, did you see anywhere if he said when he wrote it? I don't think he purposely wrote it for that release.
He wrote it when he was performing in Lake Tahoe.
Huh.
So I guess that would have been around, like, when he was already sort of indirectly in the senior circuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's a little tone deaf, pardon the pun. Really, the biggest problem I have with it is the bridge. Talk about how you didn't have to keep it, you could have swept it away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you're so happy about her having her baby, and now you're going to bring abortion into it. And the abortion issue is so raw with the recent Roe v. Wade, and I think he pissed off the pro-life people with that part of the song, and he pissed off the pro-choice people with the rest of the song.
Well, just acknowledging that abortion was possible.
Acknowledging also the kind of light-hearted nature of the way he's bringing up a very serious subject. And that, I think, is the part of the song that just doesn't work. The controversial, he should have said having our baby, not having my baby. But
yes, true.
I get with the way he's singing, the style of the song, having my baby rolls off the tongue easier than having our baby. It's just a little too vowel-y. So that pissed off the women's lib movement and things like that. But overall, I don't think he meant any harm. I don't think it's intentional misogynistic.
I'm gonna sing that lyric and just see if you laugh. That's your challenge.
Okay.
Didn't have to keep it. Wouldn't put you through it. You could have swept it from your life, but you wouldn't do it. No, you wouldn't do it. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the song or you singing, but
I don't sing as well as yourself. I don't sing as well as anyone, for that matter.
You know what? Everybody can sing.
No, we can't. Yeah, and other things in that I like this part. The need inside you, I see it showing. Whoa, the seed inside you, baby, do you feel it growing?
Yeah, that one's really cringe too. I also found, so it's and I'm using air quotes here, duet, but really it's just the woman's part, which was sung by, what is her name?
Odelia Coates.
Odelia Coates. She's echoing him in a couple of lines towards the end. And if you watch the live performance of it, she's sitting off to the side in the shadows singing. And if you can tell it was never intended as a duet, because a woman would never agree, if she was involved in the writing process, to those lyrics.
I think there's something more to it than that, though, Andrea.
What, you think they were having an affair? She was his protege in some ways, and she, there's a lot to be said for taking an African-American woman on tour with you.
That's where I'm going with this. Now, remember, this is 1974. So you probably saw the only live version with him and her that I did on the Midnight Special. Which, for anyone who hasn't seen those, just Google some of that on YouTube. It's a lot of fun, just a lot of live 70s performances. Because most things in the 70s that you'll find are lip-synced. These are not. And it's a lot of fun. It takes me back. But 74, we're only 7 years removed from the first ever interracial kiss on television.
Mm-hmm.
You know who that was?
No.
That was my namesake, Captain Kirk. Did that with Uhuru.
I didn't know that. I thought it was, you were honestly going to say it was with some alien.
It was with what? With whom?
With an alien. He was always making out with aliens.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to be named after someone, he didn't care what color it was. He was very progressive.
He was, yeah.
He was. It's like, are all the parts in the right place? I'm trying to do a Shatner. I can't really do it.
Are all the right parts in the right place?
It doesn't matter, because if there's a hole, I'll find it.
That's a pretty good Shatner. You just have to pop in some of the wrong places.
It actually sounds more like my Chandler, which isn't all that far off. Chandler from Friends. And yeah, also too, like 3 years before that, there was, I don't know if it was the first interracial kiss, I'm sure it wasn't, but it was in a really big movie with Charlton Heston in The Omega Man. That was like in his 70s sci-fi career, which like it was a film that did well. So this, I don't know that they even wanted to put her on the same stage. I mean, they easily could have.
Mm-hmm.
But and maybe I'm seeing something that's not there. I don't know. But I mean, like when you're talking about like, hey, I'm having your kid, clearly they had some intercourse, like lyrically speaking. So maybe that's not something they really want to put on television. Maybe the producer said, let's just keep her here. Or maybe it's like you said, it's just like, well, she's not supposed to be here. I mean, hey, you got to even show up here. You got to check. You're on TV. You can tell your mom. Tune in.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, and I don't think. I think given the situation and the era, her being off the side of the stage is not strange at all. My comment was honestly more about how terrible the lyric of "Oh, I'm a woman in love and I love what it's doing to me. Having my baby. I'm a woman in love and I love what's going through me."
Can you sing?
No woman
can you sing
would
that?
ever write that lyric. Ever.
Well, if you sing it, maybe you'll seem more.
I'm a woman in love and I love what it's doing to me. Having a baby. I'm a woman in love and I love what's going through me.
So now that you've sung it, does it seem more natural?
No.
Okay. I want to go back to when you were talking about the abortion part. I honestly think Anka is thinking, you know what? I'm being really woke here. I mean, nobody said the word woke then. Nobody said the word woke like 4 or 5 years ago. But
no, he said he's a liver.
Yes,
I'm a liver. Yeah. I really do think he was trying to relate to the women's lib movement and just really fell short.
Well, I mean, I think that's sometimes when you're trying to identify with something that you can't possibly identify with. We tried. We talked about, or you mentioned the criticism. So there's 2 specific criticisms that he got that was given just specifically, just for this moment, I think. So you probably saw that too. The National Organization for Women gave Anka the Keep Her in Her Place Award.
Yep.
Which I tried to see if anyone else ever won that award. I couldn't find any other time that they've ever done this. I wonder if they created it just for Anka. I think they did. Same with Ms. Magazine awarding Anka the Male Chauvinist Pig of the Year Award. I'm sure that there was a lot of people in Saudi Arabia who were relieved because they thought that for sure they were going to win that. Like, really? He's the most...
And
I don't know. I look back at that. It's like, obviously he meant well. Like, is he really a male chauvinist pig? Or did women back then maybe look at this just completely wrong?
I think it's just it's mostly poor timing and maybe just missing the mark with a few of the lyrics. People still love it. If you read any of the comments on the YouTube videos of it and comments on some of the articles and talk about singing it to their wives when they're pregnant and how sweet it is, and women talk about how their husbands have sung it to them, or the memories of their dad singing it to their mom, and like people really relate to the sweetness and the intent of it. And I think people just forget about the second half of it. Because
they do that with almost every song. You can take almost any song that's popular or that's done very well, and people are going to remember just bits and pieces of it. I mean, I talked to my dad about that. He says, "Oh, that seemed like a nice song." Like, and I'm sure to him it was. And then I sang.
Yeah, so I think it really did appeal to the people that hear the surface and they're not really paying attention to what I don't think there's even a deeper meaning. I think that the deeper meaning is something that people are reading into that wasn't necessarily intended.
And you got to hand it to Anka. He parlayed that into a second performing career, I should say, of just a lot of adult contemporary hits. Because from 74 to 76, he had 4 top 10 hits, so 3 other ones, all with Odia codes. 6 that were top 10 in adult contemporary, and actually 7. Sorry about that. I'm not a fan of adult contemporary music, but if you're doing that, you're on tour. You're now selling out more buildings. You're doing well. And kudos on him. I mean, for someone who's super successful in the late 50s to have a second career in the 70s, there's only a handful of artists that could say that. Very, very few.
I read somewhere a quote where he was saying that he really credits the fact that he stayed relevant by writing for other people. He was able to kind of maintain his relevance as his own performer by writing for Tom Jones and for Sinatra and for other people that had success with his music as well. And I can see that. Sometimes with a really good writer, you're not just writing what suits you personally. I think we saw that with Sinead O'Connor and Prince. We can probably agree that Prince is a brilliant lyricist and, one of the best of our time. She did a better job of his song than he did. So I think that happens, and sometimes someone like Paul Anka, you need to give up some of those songs to people that they're more suited to.
Did you notice, too, that he also had the last couple hits for Michael Jackson?
Yeah. Yeah, they wrote them in the 80s, and then they didn't get released until closer to Jackson's death. And he actually had to fight for royalties because they weren't going to acknowledge them, but he got 50% of the royalties on it.
I mean, that's just insane. I can't, like, the song in question was This Is It, like that, which I believe was for that documentary was that released posthumously? I think so.
It could have been, yeah.
Okay. I can't think of anyone who wrote specifically for Sinatra and Michael Jackson. How do you not want to talk to this guy? I don't care that he put out this track. I want to hang out with Paul Anka and just hear that story. How is that possible?
I saw that he has an autobiography out, and I really want to read it now because it seems like there's some. He kind of dishes the goods on Sammy Davis Jr. and on Tom Jones and on writing for Michael Jackson, and it seems like if it's well written, it could be very interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned Tom Jones. Yeah, he also wrote "She's a Lady."
She's a lady.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa! Yeah, and that wouldn't work for Anka.
No, he's too soft, I think, for that kind of Tom Jonesiness.
So while I was doing this, the only album of his that I listened completely, and you probably already know which one because I sent you off the YouTube of him covering "Smells Like Teen Spirit." And
that's so good.
It is, and like he just made it all swing music. With the full orchestra, everything.
Smoked it up, and yeah, it's like Johnny. Have you ever listened to Johnny Fromage?
No, but it sounds like
90s,
something that I would love.
Early 2000s, he did swing covers, like lounge swing covers of all sorts of hard rock, and it's pretty brilliant if you enjoy that kind of humor.
He went down the Shatner route. Once Shatner realized, you know what, I've got a second, or really a third life just making fun of myself.
Uh-huh.
And Paul Anka kind of did, he did that halfway, and the other half, it's like, okay, I'm going to make fun of myself, but I'm going to do it so well that I've literally turned this into something completely different. Did you see the track listing on that?
The which?
Okay, the track listing on that 2005 album, Rock Swings.
I didn't look at the track listing,
okay.
no.
All right, so It's My Life, covering Bon Jovi. True by Spandau Ballet. Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. REM's Everybody Hurts.
I can see him doing that. Like I can hear that one. I did see Black Hole Sun.
Yeah, that one. Oasis's Wonderwall. It's a Sin by the Pet Shop Boys. And just to prove that we're keeping everything on point, Jump, Van Halen. Hello, Lionel Richie. That doesn't need any help to be schmaltzy as shit. Eyes Without a Face, Billy Idol. Love Cats, The Cure. Michael Jackson, The Way You Make Me Feel, and then finishes off with a weak one. Tears in Heaven, Eric Clapton.
That's just fun. Do you know that John Bon Jovi was actually guitar, piano, and backing vocals on that CD?
Oh, was it? Okay. That's awesome.
I just happened to look up the thing.
Oh, yes, so it is.
He had a few big names on that record.
Holy crap. The amount of musicians on this. When we did Ballad of the Green Beret, there was like 2.
With 8 drummers.
My God. So Paul Anka's still alive. He's still a very interesting man. I'm not happy I listened to the song over and over, but I am happy we talked about him, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I built up some respect for this Canadian musician that I just only barely knew about before.
So what do you have on tap? We do alternating weeks.
So here's my thought. We're going to jump back to 1968.
Oh, okay.
We're going to do a song by a musician who's the only person who's ever had both an instrumental and a vocal top hit, number 1 hit.
Okay.
Any thoughts on who it is?
The only
He's better known as a trumpet player.
Okay, then I know exactly who this is, because I was looking at this, I was looking at doing Rise.
Nice. Well, I was thinking we're going to do This Guy's in Love with You, not Rise.
Okay.
But it is Herb Alpert. I don't believe the Tijuana Brass is actually in the title of this one, but it's Herb Alpert in the Tijuana Brass, because that's just what it is.
All right.
Can I just tell why I picked this song? Because it's a funny story.
Yeah, please.
First of all, Van Halen's been on the news a lot, and so the song, this podcast is basically, I mean, the title of it is How the Fuck Did This Get Number One? And there's been a few things recently talking about charts lately and how Van Halen currently has something like 10 songs in the top 50 right now. Like, they're pushing out crap songs and making a reemergence because that's what's in the news. Mm-hmm. And it might be like the top songs, but it's in like the top downloads and things like that. So there's varying reasons why people make the charts. And sometimes it's not new music, sometimes it's because an event happened. So I have to admit that this is not my favorite podcast. This is my second favorite podcast. I have a dirty little secret. There's a podcast I absolutely love, and don't judge me, it's a comedy podcast called My Dad Wrote a Porno. And it's this guy reading this absolutely atrocious adult erotic book that his 60-year-old father wrote. And his two friends just completely taking the piss out of it. And it is hysterical. And so in one episode, there's a reference to a Herb Alpert song. Mm-hmm. And these three 30-ish-year-old Brits don't know who Herb Alpert is. They think he's just some American folk musician. So they get their 8 million followers to go and try to download this song and just, help out this poor guy. And they actually get 1960s or 70s random one-off, like, odd song from Herb Alpert to, I think they make it to the top 40 adult contemporary chart in like 2017. And then they come to the realization that Herb Alpert is actually an extremely successful musician and producer and doesn't really need any help getting on the charts. But the whole thing it was really like a really funny way of them being like, throw a buck at the guy and download the song. So anyways.
Is this at least the favorite podcast that you're in?
What? No. This is just a podcast that I love. It's really terrible.
Yeah, but is this your favorite one that you're actually in? You said your favorite podcast was this other one, and it's not this one.
Oh, this is my favorite podcast that I'm actually in.
Okay.
This is the only podcast that I'm in.
Well, you didn't need to be so honest there, Andrea.
So anyways, That's how I came to decide that we had to have Herb Alpert on our podcast.
Okay. I looked at this for doing Rise, but why not?
We can talk about Rise, too. I don't know how much we actually have to say about This Guy's in Love with You, except that it's in a billion TV shows and movies.
Well, it works. I mean, like, talking about a super successful guy who you wouldn't think is this successful. Mm-hmm. He doesn't come out at you like, this guy's had a number one in the 60s and the 70s, and he's been working since the 50s.
What I was really surprised by is that Spanish Flea was not the number one song. Do 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 do. Yeah. So
we got a good one. I love it.
Oh, please.
I love it. So we're going to be recording a little bit later next week. Because the chairman's got to do a mock committee in the pro football world. I'm going to plug that a little bit. So for football fans, because there's a lot of cross-reference of songs in football. No, there's not? None? Okay. Well, I tried.
There is if you're in Glee.
Ugh. How did that get referenced twice? Jesus.
I know how much you love musicals.
Yeah, that's all I need is more hate mail. All I need.
He was just disappointed, Brad. Just disappointed.
Yeah, well, usually I disappoint women. I've never disappointed a man before. So, your football reference, what is it you're doing that I'm eagerly awaiting to listen to? What are we doing? Doing a mock committee. We may or may not actually do that I don't know whether it's going to be put out on the site. It just might be something where we're figuring out how easy or how hard it is to do what actual Hall of Fame committees do.
So instead of putting it out for all of us to randomly vote on your not in Hall of Fame list, you're going to try to do it like in a Zoom meet.
Yeah. Basically, the Pro Football Hall of Fame has got 125 or is it 127 preliminary nominees, and in November they pare it down to 25. So we're going to pretend that we're that committee and come up with the 25 who we think are the most deserving to go forward.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how many of them would be comfortable to have this all on for everyone to dissect and listen to. So that's why it may or may not go on the site. But the results will.
All right, then.
So we'll see how that one goes. Always trying something new here at NotInHallOfFame.com. That's sort of how Chandler would have said it.
Probably, yes.
Probably. Awesome.
So we will talk on Wednesday then.
Absolutely. Sounds good. All right. Stay safe, Andrea. Thank you all for listening. We hope everyone out there is staying safe. Look for a lot more content from us at NotInHallOfFame.com coming soon. Take care, everyone.